Hello everyone. If you love touching animal stories and want to follow the inspiring journey of these adorable friends, don't forget to hit the subscribe button now so you won't miss any of our videos. Now, let's dive into today's emotional story. The wind pierced through the alleys of Chicago like icy daggers, wrapping around every exposed inch of 17-year-old Lily Evans' frail body. Her coat, once a warm shade of maroon, now hung from her like a ghost of better days, threadbare, torn, and soaked in snow. She curled into herself at the edge of an old bakery, its windows long boarded up, as snowflakes danced around her tangled chestnut hair. Clutched tightly in her arms was her only possession of warmth, a faded gray blanket, worn thin from years of use. It smelled of dust and time, but to Lily, it was a memory of the grandmother who once tucked her in at night. That world had vanished, gone with the fire that took her home and the guardians who never came back. Now the city didn't see her. People passed in warm boots and expensive scarves, eyes fixed ahead, never down. Her stomach clenched, the hunger gnawing as hard as the cold. But something pulled her attention away from her pain. A faint, barely audible whimper. Lily sat up, blinking snow from her lashes, and looked across the street. Under the flickering orange light of a broken lamp post was a shape, huddled in a heap beside a trash bin. It was a dog, a German shepherd, his body trembling violently against the cold, his fur matted with grime and patches of bald skin. His ribs jutted out, sharp and fragile, and his eyes dark, glossy, and full of something Lily recognized all too well. Met hers for only a second before he dropped his head to the pavement, too weak to move. She hesitated. The blanket barely kept her alive. But the image of the dog, abandoned and shivering, tore at something deep in her chest. She stood slowly, the cold biting into her like knives as she crossed the street. Her fingers shook as she pulled the blanket from around her and knelt beside the dog. "Hey, boy," she whispered, her voice hoarse from days without real conversation. The dog didn't flinch, only shivered harder. She gently draped the blanket over his bony frame, tucking it under his belly and chest. "You're not alone now," she murmured, her fingers brushing through his dirty coat. The dog let out a broken whimper, and to her surprise inched closer, resting his head against her leg. For the first time in a long while, Lily felt something besides hunger and pain. She felt warmth, not just from the dog's body, but from the silent understanding between two lost souls. "Guess we've got each other now," she said softly. She didn't know it yet, but that moment, the simple act of giving away her only warmth, was the beginning of a bond that would change both their lives forever. By morning, the snow had stopped falling, leaving behind a pale, fragile silence. Lily stirred beneath the awning of the abandoned bakery, her limbs stiff and her breath visible in the crisp air. Beside her, the German shepherd still lay curled beneath the blanket, pressed against her side. His breathing was shallow, but steadier than the night before. She turned her head and smiled gently. "You made it through," she whispered. His ears flicked at the sound of her voice. When he opened his eyes, those soulful chocolate-brown eyes, Lily saw it. Recognition, trust, maybe even gratitude. "I'm gonna call you Max," she said. "You look like a Max." Max let out a soft huff, nudging her hand with his cold nose. They moved slowly that morning, searching the city for scraps. A half-eaten bagel near a bench. A tossed paper cup with the last drops of lukewarm coffee. It wasn't enough, but they shared it, Lily always giving Max the bigger half. By midday, they reached the busy corner near a subway entrance. It was noisy, filled with the clamor of lives moving forward. People in suits, in uniforms, in hurry. Lily knew most wouldn't look at her. A teenage girl with a tattered coat and dirty jeans, sitting beside a dog. But she had something else, something she hadn't used in a long time. Her voice. Lily had once dreamed of being a singer. Her grandmother said she had a voice like honey melting over a campfire. That dream had been buried beneath years of loss. But now, sitting on the pavement with Max by her side, she felt the stirrings of it again. She took a deep breath and began to sing. Her voice was cracked from cold, her notes raw and trembling, but it was real. It was pain and beauty wrapped in melody. The city didn't stop, but it slowed. A few passers-by paused. One woman dropped coins into Lily's open hand. A man gave her a nod of quiet respect. But it wasn't just the song. It was Max. As Lily sang, Max stood beside her, alert and calm. When someone came too close, he'd wag his tail gently or let out a soft bark. Nothing threatening, just enough to draw attention, to protect her space. And it worked. People noticed. They noticed them. A small boy tugged at his mother's hand, pointing at Max with wide eyes. The mother smiled and handed Lily a folded $5 bill. "You're brave," she said softly before walking away. Tears welled in Lily's eyes. That afternoon, for the first time in weeks, she bought 2 warm meat buns from a street vendor. She and Max sat together in an alley behind a bookstore, savoring every bite. As the sun dipped behind the skyscrapers, Lily glanced up and noticed a figure across the street. A woman in a long, elegant coat. She was older, maybe in her 60s, with silver-streaked hair tucked beneath a wool hat. Her eyes locked on Lily and Max, calm, calculating, curious. Then she turned and disappeared into the crowd. Lily shivered. She didn't know why, but something about the woman's gaze had felt different, as if fate had just knocked quietly on the edge of her world. The temperature dropped sharply that night, and the wind screamed through the alleys like a wounded animal. Lily pulled the blanket tighter around Max and herself, sheltering behind a dumpster in a small alley they'd claimed as their sleeping spot. It wasn't safe, but it was familiar. Max rested his head on her lap, and she gently stroked his fur, whispering, "We'll get through this, just like we always do." But the city didn't care about promises. Not to girls like Lily, not to strays like Max. She was just about to drift into uneasy sleep when she heard the sound. Footsteps. Several. Fast. Purposeful. Her heart pounded. Before she could sit up, a harsh voice cut through the darkness. Well, what we got here?" 3 young men emerged from the shadows, their faces shadowed by hooded sweatshirts, their voices thick with aggression. One of them, taller and thinner than the rest, stepped closer, eyeing the backpack Lily clutched. "Heard you made a little money today. Don't be shy now, share it." Lily's blood turned to ice. She rose halfway to her feet, Max immediately standing between her and the strangers, growling low and deep. "I don't have anything," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Please, just leave us alone." But there was no mercy in the boy's eyes, just the kind of hunger that came from the streets, the kind that turned desperation into danger. The tallest one reached for her bag. Max exploded. With a furious snarl, he launched forward, clamping his jaws onto the attacker's arm. The man screamed, stumbling backward. The other 2 shouted in panic, one kicking Max hard in the ribs. Max yelped, crumpling for a moment. But he got up again, still growling, his body trembling with pain but his stance unwavering. Lily screamed, "Stop! Leave him alone!" Seeing Max still ready to fight, the boys panicked. The tall one, clutching his bleeding arm, snarled, "Screw this! It's not worth it!" They turned and ran, disappearing into the night as fast as they'd come. Silence fell like a stone. Lily dropped to her knees beside Max. He was breathing hard, his side heaving, and there was blood staining his fur from the kick. Tears spilled from her eyes as she wrapped her arms around him. "You stupid, brave boy," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why'd you do that?" Max licked her cheek, whining softly, still alert, still hers. She sat there with him, cradling his head in her lap, the cold forgotten. All she could think was, he could have died for me. That's when she heard the footsteps again. But this time they were calm, soft, and when she looked up, she saw the same elegant woman from the day before. The woman knelt, her face pale with concern as she took in the sight before her. Lily, shaking with shock, and Max, wounded but alert. "I've been looking for you," the woman said softly. Lily's voice was a rasp. "Why?" The woman's eyes shimmered with emotion. "Because of him," she said, nodding to Max. "Years ago, I lost a dog, a German shepherd. He was stolen from me, trained, loyal, extraordinary. He looked exactly like this one." Lily's hands tightened around Max. "He's mine now. I don't care who he looks like. He's mine." "I believe you," the woman said gently. "And I would never take him from you." Lily blinked. "Then what do you want?" The woman smiled, something warm and familiar in it. "I want to help you both." Lily hesitated as the woman, who introduced herself as Clara Whitmore, gently offered her a warm coat and an invitation. "I have a place outside the city," Clara said. "A sanctuary for dogs who've been through hell, and sometimes for people too. I think you and Max belong there." Lily glanced down at Max, his eyes tired but watchful. He was in pain, that much was clear, but he still sat tall, still leaned into her for strength. And she realized he was waiting for her decision, trusting her. With trembling fingers, she took Clara's hand. The ride to Clara's home was quiet. Lily dozed off once, her head leaning against Max, who lay across the back seat of Clara's car with a thick blanket tucked around him. When she awoke, it was to the sight of a winding road lined with snow-covered pine trees and a large wooden house nestled at the edge of a field. Beyond it stretched an open training yard, where dogs of all breeds played and trained with smiling volunteers. "This is Haven Hills," Clara said as they pulled in. It saved more than a few lost souls. Inside the house, Lily was overwhelmed by warmth, physical and emotional. A fire crackled in the hearth, soup simmered on the stove, and Clara's staff greeted her like she belonged. Max was taken gently by a vet team and treated immediately. His ribs were bruised, but there were no broken bones. His recovery, they said, would be swift, thanks to his strength and the bond he shared with Lily. For the first time in years, Lily slept in a real bed. The days passed gently. Max regained his strength quickly, returning to his alert, protective self, though now, instead of growling at shadows, he chased butterflies across the open yard. Lily found herself changing too. Clara encouraged her to join the sanctuary's dog training sessions, and it turned out Lily had a gift. The dogs listened to her, responded to her calm voice and steady hands. And with Clara's help, she began studying, attending online classes in the evenings, learning everything from animal behavior to basic first aid. One snowy afternoon, Lily stood beside Clara on the back porch, watching Max play with two young pups. "You're a natural," Clara said. Lily looked down. "I never thought I'd be anything." Clara shook her head. "You gave everything you had to help that dog. And look how far you've both come. You've earned this new life. You've created it." Lily swallowed the lump in her throat. I didn't want him to be alone. I know what that feels like. And that's why you'll go far," Clara said. "This place, it's not just for healing. It's for growth. And I think you're ready." "Why?" Years later, the story of a homeless girl who gave her last blanket to a freezing dog was told in schools, newspapers, and even on national television. Lily never sought attention. She was content working at Haven Hills, now as Clara's assistant director. Max, ever by her side, had become something of a legend himself. His scars proof of his courage, his eyes still full of fierce loyalty. One summer afternoon, a group of visiting children surrounded Lily and Max under a shady tree. "Is it true you saved each other?" one little girl asked. Lily smiled as she looked down at Max, who lay at her feet, his eyes half closed, his tail thumping gently. "Yes," she said. "I gave him my blanket, and he gave me everything." This story is a powerful reminder that compassion knows no boundaries. In the coldest, loneliest corners of life, a single act of kindness can spark a chain of miracles. Lily, a homeless girl with nothing to give but her worn blanket, chose to share it with a shivering, forgotten dog. That small gesture, born from shared pain and empathy, became the moment that changed everything, for both of them. Max wasn't just a stray. He was a symbol of resilience, loyalty, and the quiet strength that lives in those who've been hurt but haven't given up. And Lily, through her courage and kindness, found not only a companion, but a path to a life she never thought she deserved. Their bond reminds us that healing doesn't always come from grand solutions. It often begins with a soft voice, a gentle touch, and the decision to care, even when it's hard. In a world that often overlooks the broken, their story shows that love and loyalty can rebuild even the most shattered lives. Sometimes, the ones we save are the very ones who end up saving us. And sometimes, fate rewards kindness in the most beautiful, unexpected ways.